It was just another Monday morning in the towering glass fortress of Bigham Enterprises. Employees poured in, heads down, eyes glued to glowing screens, already weighed down by the week ahead. Coffee cups in hand, briefcases in tow, they moved like ants in a maze, unaware of what was about to unfold. But outside, something extraordinary was stirring. Something that would shake the very core of the company. A scream cut through the morning calm. "Don't get in the car." The voice came from a man most people barely noticed. Daniel, the janitor. A single father whose life was a constant juggle of midnight cleaning shifts and early mornings, making sure his little girl got to school safely. His hands were rough, scarred from years of hard work. His eyes, heavy with exhaustion, still held a fierce, unshakable love. That love was his armor and his weakness. Heads turned. Phones paused. Conversations stopped. Daniel was sprinting across the parking lot, mop bucket abandoned, shouting at the top of his lungs. His voice trembled, raw with urgency, as it reached the sleek black car waiting near the entrance. The girl standing at the curb wasn't his daughter. She was Lily, the CEO's little girl, and something about the scene screamed danger. The driver, a man Daniel had noticed earlier, had been circling the lot too casually, too deliberately. Something in Daniel's gut tightened. Danger, pure and simple. He didn't think. He just ran. "Don't get in, please," he shouted again, voice cracking with fear. Lily froze, tiny feet rooted to the pavement, her eyes wide as the man in the car smirked, oblivious to the world around him. And then, just like that, the tires screeched, the car lurched forward, and the vehicle sped away, leaving a smoky trail and a stunned, silent crowd. Gasps and murmurs erupted. Security rushed toward the chaos. But from the glass doors emerged a woman in a navy suit. Charlotte Bigham, CEO of the empire. Her heels clicked sharply against the concrete as she reached for her daughter, heart hammering. Eyes scanning the chaos, Daniel stood frozen for a heartbeat, chest heaving, knowing that one split-second decision had just changed everything. Charlotte held Lily tightly, her arms trembling, tears streaming down her face. She looked past her daughter and saw Daniel, chest heaving, shirt soaked with sweat from his frantic sprint. You saved her," she whispered, voice barely audible, a mixture of awe and relief. Until that moment, Daniel had been invisible to most of the world. Just another janitor moving quietly through the hallways. But to his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, he had always been a hero, a quiet, unwavering protector. Life had never been gentle with Daniel. His wife had died giving birth to Emma, leaving him alone to navigate a world that offered little mercy. No family nearby, no college degree, no safety net, just long hours scrubbing floors, mopping spills, and keeping offices pristine so he could keep food on the table. He often skipped meals, sacrificing for Emma without a second thought. Every morning, before heading to his shift, he braided Emma's hair, packed her little lunchbox, and whispered the words that guided his life. "Kindness is free. Never stop giving it." Behind that gentle, reassuring smile, though Daniel carried exhaustion, worry, and a constant fear that he wasn't enough, that life might take Emma from him in some cruel twist. That morning, as he stopped Lily from stepping into danger, Daniel had no clue how drastically his life was about to change. News of the incident spread through Bigham Enterprises like wildfire. The janitor who had saved the CEO's daughter became the whispered headline in elevators, break rooms, and lunchrooms. But Charlotte Bigham wasn't a woman to leave loose ends. She demanded a full investigation. Within days, the truth surfaced. The man in the black car had a criminal record, including an attempted kidnapping. If Daniel hadn't yelled, if he hadn't run, Lily might have been gone forever. Charlotte, a woman used to controlling boardrooms and making life-altering decisions, felt a rare crack in her armor. Power, wealth, and influence had never shaken her like this moment. She realized that despite all her resources, a single, selfless act by a man no one even noticed could change everything, and maybe even save everything, Charlotte realized. In that instant, that her entire world could have been shattered in a heartbeat, it not for a man most people barely noticed. She picked up the phone and called Daniel to her office that when he walked in. Nerves written all over his face, he wiped his hands on his uniform. The grandeur of Charlotte's office mahogany desk, city skyline view, leather chairs made him feel smaller than ever, like an aunt in a palace. Charlotte's voice trembled slightly as she asked, "How? How did you know?" Daniel shrugged, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I didn't. Not really. I saw the way he looked at her, the way he rushed. Something felt wrong. I couldn't stay quiet." A heavy silence hung in the air. Then Charlotte leaned forward, her eyes softening. "You saved my daughter's life," she said, her voice low but steady. "That makes you family in my eyes." Over the next few days, Charlotte began to learn more about Daniel. The late-night double shifts, the unpaid bills stacked like a small fortress in a corner of his apartment, the tiny home he shared with Emma, where broken toys were stitched together with tape and glue because he couldn't afford new ones. One rainy evening, Charlotte had asked her driver to drop off a document Daniel had forgotten at work. What she found stayed with her forever. Daniel, kneeling on the kitchen floor, painstakingly sewing Emma's torn school bag by hand. Emma sat beside him, spool of thread in her little hands, helping however she could. Charlotte's heart ached. Here was a man giving everything he had, every ounce of love, every sleepless night, every sacrifice for his daughter. Nothing left for himself, and yet he gave it willingly. She went home that night unable to sleep. All her wealth, her skyscrapers, her empire. And yet Daniel had something she could never buy, something priceless, unconditional love. The next morning, Charlotte called a board meeting that left everyone stunned. Effective immediately, she announced, Daniel is no longer just the janitor of this company. He will now head our new employee care program. The room went silent. Eyes widened. Whispers began. And in that moment, Daniel realized that the life he had struggled to hold together with nothing had just been handed a new, unimaginable beginning. Charlotte stood before the board, her voice ringing with conviction. This department is designed to support the families of every worker here. Housing, education, healthcare. We will put the people who keep this company alive first. The room erupted into whispers. Some protested. He has no degree, no experience. They murmured. Charlotte silenced them with a sharp look. He has what none of us have, she said. Courage, heart, the instinct to protect. That is true leadership. When Daniel was called to the stage, applause thundered through the room. Tears streamed down his face as he embraced Emma, who had been brought up to stand beside him. For the first time in his life, he was not invisible. But Daniel's journey was far from easy. Stepping into a leadership role brought new challenges. Late nights studying, learning management skills, confronting colleagues who still whispered, "He's just the janitor." Some mocked him quietly. Others doubted him. There were nights he wanted to quit, moments he felt like an imposter. Yet every time he faltered, Emma's wide, trusting eyes reminded him, "Daddy, you always tell me to never give up. That means you can't either." And so, he pushed forward. Daniel led differently. He listened more than he spoke. He asked employees about their families, their struggles, their dreams. Slowly, people realized he was unlike any boss they'd known. His leadership wasn't about power. It was about kindness, empathy, and respect. Years later, Bigham Enterprises became a company admired not just for profits, but for its heart. Employee turnover dropped, satisfaction soared, and families felt supported. All of it traced back to one man who had shouted, "Don't get in the car." When no one else saw the danger, Daniel never forgot his roots. Even in his new role, he still visited the janitorial staff, still brought Emma to volunteer on weekends, still lived by the words he had whispered to her since she was little. Kindness is free. Never stop giving it. Friends, life can change in a single moment, sometimes with one word. One act of courage, one choice to speak up when others stay silent. Daniel's story reminds us that no one is invisible. Every person, no matter their job or status, carries the power to change lives. And often, it's the people the world overlooks who become the true heroes.